morning. It's Friday. That means it's time for Hits and Misses. And with a hat tip to the great Warner Wolf, let's go to the videotape.
All right, let's go to the videotape.
Right here. Strike one. No. Reggie Jackson. Followed by a big World Series for Reggie Jackson. He's flying over the left.
There are misses, and there are misses. And this past week, a big hit and a big miss both played out on the NBC field. Now, the issue at hand was the hiring of Ronna McDaniel, the seditious lady from Michigan, who was the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, the third oldest political party in the world. What she did was suborn an insurrection by being a major player in a conspiracy of lies. Ronna McDaniel refused to play her role, to do her duty, to meet her responsibility, and play a small role in the seamless, peaceful, perpetual transfer of power that marks the American Republic. It is the cornerstone of our civilization. The idea that we, the people, can choose our leaders through an election process where majorities decide who's in charge. Of course, we have a system of law under a constitution that today includes everybody and protects minority rights from a tyrant, from a dictator. Because in America, there is no person who is above the law. Ronna McDaniel tried to tear down the building blocks that are the foundation of America's society. And she did it knowing it was the wrong thing to do because, in her words, well, let's hear her say it again.
To the question, though, do you disagree with Trump saying he's going to free those who've been charged?
I do not think people who committed violent acts on January 6th should be freed.
So you disagree with that? He's been saying that for months. Ronna, why not speak out earlier? Why just speak out about that now?
When you're the RNC chair, you kind of take one for the whole team, right? Now I get to be a little bit more myself, right? This is what I believe.
Ronna McDaniel had a duty, and she failed to meet it. NBC News journalists have a duty to the public. They have a public trust to report the news from around the world, to explain and explicate complexity. What is happening? Why is it happening? Where is it happening? What does it mean? This requires credibility. This requires trust. This requires an audience of Americans to believe that there's no agenda, there's no hidden mirror, no magnet under the table, no hidden hand at play. This is why network news divisions have standards that guide truthfulness, probity, and integrity. Because the delivery of the news at an elemental level is deeply attached to the notion of trust. And we live in an era where trust has collapsed completely between the American people and most every institution you could think to name, from the Catholic Church to the Boy Scouts of America, to the political parties, to the news networks, on and on and on and on and on it goes. But let's look back at this week's big hit, an electrifying moment, a stunning one, actually. The words were epic, and they will resonate and reverberate, and they will be around for a long time, because they mark, more than anything that has been said over the last 9 years, the state, the condition, the decrepitude of American journalism in this era of access media, where the truth and the lie exist together, indistinguishable, in a twilight gaze of American democracy.
Let me deal with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation, because I don't know what to believe. She is now a paid contributor by NBC News. Well, I have no idea whether any answer she gave to you was because she didn't want to mess up her contract.
But those words spoken by Chuck Todd, the hit, went a lot further than it may seem at first. Because what he was talking about at a core level were the bosses across the board who have saddled the American people with a network news media estranged from the truth, married to condescension, deeply wedded to the idea that Trump is a golden calf and a gift horse that keeps on giving, no matter how much damage he does to all of the values and to all of the things that the network news exists to defend against and to communicate about. The thousands of appalling moments that have accumulated in an instant were washed away by a sentence, because that sentence gave courage to a collective action, which was the hit of the week. The assertion at long last of integrity over indecency and untruthfulness, on television, no less. A line was drawn. No. And it was beautiful to hear. So the hit of this week goes to Kristen Welker and to Chuck Todd and to the courage that they inspired behind them, when collectively the journalists of NBC News said, we are the network, not the cynical bosses. It is the viewer and the audience and the American public who counts here as well, not just the shareholder. And do you know what? Guess who agreed with the journalists? The cynical executives who made the act of principle possible in the first place with their undiluted cynicism and their obtusity and absolute inability to comprehend, after 9 years of time, this urgent moment in American life, this dire hour in American history, where we hover near the edge of an abyss, where the central idea and ideal of the country is under threat, under assault, and often disregarded. But not at NBC News. Because this week, the truth won. Thank you for listening to my political commentary. If you like what you heard today, please also consider subscribing to the Warning daily newsletter on Substack.